let me into my zone. Please don't let me into my zone. 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 Please don't let me.
Well, welcome back to Krown's Kiddo Cave, Mr. Camera number 2, or Mrs. Camera number 2 over here. Want to be wishing you a happy and healthy start to your Friday morning over here from actually a very bright and sunny Helsinki, Finland. Cold as fuck, though, I should say. Sorry for the little bit of a later upload this morning, as I've been making my own dumpy dump swirly pies in the toilet bowl this morning. But feeling good now and ready to do some Bitcoin analysis, which is starting to show a lot of major things, especially as we come into not only the weekly, but also the monthly close for CME. It's happening today, and traditional markets as well, and then Bitcoin spot to follow on Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern time. Even with all that said, I want to wish you the best of the best and the happiest of the happiest, because we want to waste no more time and get in a live stream right over here right now. And there we go, teleporting in, and there she is, Bitcoin. No, the Krown Trading app, which can be found for 100% freely at app.krowntrading.net. And my words aren't even flowing today, so god damn it. Anyways, Bitcoin dominance still more or less steady as far as I'm concerned. Fear and greed index ticking pretty much at that 40 area consistently, but most importantly, and what I really want to put the focus on right now, open interest getting crushed once again. We've lost about another 50 million to 100 million over the last day and a half. So coming all the way down from the last few days, losing about 300, 400 million from this read is exactly what we've been looking for the last couple weeks. Although the direction, not necessarily the most pleasurable direction for most Bitcoin boolas out there, but red dildos be rejoiced by Bitcoin bears nonetheless. Anyways, let's go look at some price action and discuss what's going on. Actually, first and foremost in traditional markets right now, because traditional markets do seem to be, well, once again, correlated with the good old Bitcoins. Anyways, this is a correlation chart and an R-squared chart of Bitcoin versus the major ETF, or sorry, the major bourse of traditional markets, that being SPY, S&P 500, basically the same thing. Anyways, what we can see over here is that these guys are incredibly correlated, and with traditional markets really taking it on the chin this last week, or this past week I should say, does not necessarily bode all that well for Bitcoin longer term. However, as you can see, I just want to show that the correlation is certainly there, and it is still actually strengthening a little bit. We do see correlation coefficient showing a 0.59. That's pretty damn strong. We do see a couple other assets correlated in that fashion with Bitcoin. That gives direction, but it's the R squared down here that really gives the insightfulness into how efficacious this is. The R squared is measuring is essentially measuring a regression of the correlation coefficient with regards to how accurate that is, or sorry, how good the fit is to price action. So with the R squared being at 0.68, that's the highest I've seen of Bitcoin related to any other asset like ever, more so than even gold, for example, as many people make the correlation between gold and Bitcoin. No, in fact, traditional markets have a much stronger correlation. And let's go, actually, I just want to verify this really quick, because gold actually has been acting, well, relatively okay in comparison to Bitcoin. I'm going to be closing a strong monthly. You can see the correlation coefficient is showing about the same read at a 0.587. So pretty much, stock standard the same. But the big thing here, the revealing factor, is the R squared showing you that this is actually not all that close at all, showing less than half the R squared of what we saw on Bitcoin versus SPY. So what is the true correlation? It's actually Bitcoin in traditional markets, which makes sense, because as of right now, and this could change in the future, but as of right now, when Bitcoin's more or less very immature, it does seem to act as a risk on asset, as you'd imagine. I don't really know anyone who's like, I don't really know normal people who are saying, that stock market's crashing now, time to go into Bitcoin. Well, I haven't heard too many of that. And I think that that's also pretty damn self-evident when you look at the actual charts. So my point is that, as of right now, it is very much relevant to be looking at traditional markets for direction overall on Bitcoin. We see them acting together very well on the macro, not on a day-by-day basis. I'm not making that assessment at all, at fucking all. But what I am saying is that over the macro, we're talking about on a monthly run over here, that they do have a very lovingly way to follow each other. And with traditional markets absolutely getting cream pied yesterday right at close, which I was not awake for, this is not, not necessarily the picture of health and fitness. We got our first close below the 200 simple and 200 exponential moving average yesterday confirmed. I do think that we are getting very close to a nice low here. Probably a little bit of a stab lower at 295 and a half to 293 is where I'd be looking towards. and probably another bounce attempt there. We did get our bounce attempt yesterday, but the bounce was sold into, and this makes me think that we are going to see continuation this when traditional markets open back up today. But I would be looking for a bounce somewhere around 295 to 293ish region, and hope that the bounce is strong. Anyways, monthly is going to be very likely closing absolutely atrociously. So I'll leave you with that, and let's go on over to Bitcoin right now. As Bitcoin, not necessarily the picture of health and fitness either. Kind of struggling around the 200 simple on the daily as well. Hasn't broken it just yet, but it is looking to me like lower timeframes do want to test back down into the lower end of this region. In fact, the blue box territory, once again, showing price action, wants to be kind of sucked up in there. Actually, we've kind of mostly we've gotten the majority of this easy move right here back down to 8,600 because I was spending all my fucking time in the morning on the good old toilet bowl. But going over to my Bit Mexican chart, I do think that we have a little bit more on this one to go at about 8,600, 8,650ish region, even most likely gets ticked. The question is, do we actually close below this region right around here, which I would conservatively say is about 8,550, aggressively say is about 8,600. If we do start to close 4-hour dildos below there, yes, I do think we're going to get that next leg down to about 8,150 to 8,200ish region, but that's only triggered if and only if we get that closures below this blue box territory right here. For right now, there is a lot of bad things going on the lower time frames as well as the higher term time frames. We do see a 4-hour death cross not only confirmed but getting divergence away from each other, as all major moving averages are starting to really get an aggressive downward slope. Most importantly, we do see that the 21 exponential moving averages is about one or two more closes, or sorry, actually one more close away from crossing below the 377. Again, speaking to the more long-term direction of this asset, well, from a 4-hour perspective, so it's not all that long. Anyways, I do want to show, historically speaking, what the efficacy of this cross is, as it has driven a lot of price action, both the upside and the downside in the past history of Bitcoin. Let's take all these babies off, and I'm going to leave on just the green, the purple, and the white. The white is a little bit irrelevant to what I'm talking about. But you can see that there is a little bit of an interplay between them nonetheless. But it's really the green and the purple, the 55 and the 200 that I want to have the full focus on. And just to go back to the last golden cross that we saw, that led us all the way up from the rally in early January from about 7,500, which is where we really started to get bullish, all the way up to 10,500. And before that, we got the death cross all the way down from 8,850 all the way down to essentially 6,500. So this is a couple $1,000 move again. Time before that was right around 10.3, which is where we started to get bearish on this breakdown right in over here, leading us all the way from 10.3 essentially down to 7.3. So another $3,000 move right there. We did get one fake out in the middle of 2019 right here. But even then, this golden cross did actually produce some nice price action from signal given to next high. That's a 15.5% move on basically what I would consider as like a failed cross. Before that, do we have any other examples of, well, this one's just all the way through, all the way from 3,600 all the way to 14,000. And before that, 6,000 down to 3,000. So I won't go too much further than that, but I do want to show that historically speaking, even when we're talking about a counter trend signal on a failed signal attempt, we're still talking, usually around 10 to 15%, on that. So with this signal being given right here, I would like to see Bitcoin probably bounce up a little bit more to test one of the major moving averages. I think the 20, looking for a test around the 21 would not be asking all that much, and that's actually rapidly coming down now. So perhaps we do test that over the weekend, but this is looking less and less appetizing. And I do just want to check. I do just want to check out, and this is 100% a fresh look for me on the charts right now. What like shaving 10 to 15% off again on like kind of a lower end signal for this would be, and this one's actually on the side of the trend right now, which is a little bit scary. That actually put us 15% signal would put us down around 7,600, 7,700. A 10% signal would put us hey, I can't see it now, right around 8,000 to 8,100. So I do think that if Bitcoin gets another leg down, 8,150 to 8,200 is where I'd be looking towards. I think that we have a nice blue box kind of I don't have any blue boxes headed down there just yet. So let me actually construct one right now. Let's see where it kind of fit in. I do see a very obvious area right here starting at 82, and I see the bottom side of that consolidation coming in Actually a little bit lower than that. I was expecting that would be a little bit more smack dab at around 8150-ish region. Let's see if perhaps a higher time frame will show it a little bit better. And yes, okay, great. So we do see that actually it's a little bit more accurately spoken like this. So 8150 to about 8250 in this $100 region right here is what I feel a little bit more confident in stating. And that would be my next target if Bitcoin does break to the downside. And realistically, with the way that traditional markets are looking right now, I don't think that that's too far-fetched. But again, my triggering event for that happening is I need to see at the very least a 4-hour total closure below about 8550. A 12-hour below 8600 would probably do it all in the same way as well. Or a move down below our current wick bottom, which is 8523 on Mexico on this kind of hammerish delta right here, which is already kind of under pressure. So I would say that those are the major considerations for myself as Bitcoin kind of flounders about in this region. And with the weekend coming up, I would be more defensive than anything else. Of course, we did get the move to 8950 yesterday that we spoke about, but the rejection coming, just as fast. And more importantly, with this, I do think that Bitcoin would be set up for a formal test of the 9150 to 9200-ish region right here, if and only if we can get a 4-hour delta closing, basically back above this little swing high that we saw at a little bit above 8900-ish region, or a 2-hour delta closure above 8950-ish region. Whichever one of those two things happens first, I would be looking for extension, very, very likely towards about 91 to 9150-ish region. Remember though, it's kind of the same analysis as yesterday. That doesn't really change anything until on the medium and higher time frames. Of course, for the shorter term time frames, we got a lot going on right here. There's a lot there. There's actually quite a bit of opportunity. But for the medium and higher term time frames, until Bitcoin can rally all the way back up here, and I'd actually still be looking for it to be a rejection. However, if Bitcoin were to start closing 4-hour deltas above, let's call it 9200, or 12 hours above 9150, I would be looking for extension actually quite significantly higher towards about 9550 to 9600 right around here. And this would really start to look like a very nice and sophisticated bear trap, which would be very much welcome for the Bitcoin bulos out there. But for right now, I want to be very, very clear in stating this, that as long as we're below 9150, 9200, I am overall bearish. I'm sticking with what I've been saying for a while. This is what triggered the initial bearishness right here below 9600, continuation bearishness right here to our 8500-ish target below 92, and all those were met. Now, I did think that was going to take like more or less. I thought that price action would take like a week or two to really extrapolate. That happens all in about 2 days. So again, my timing of these things not good, and I don't claim to be, and I don't think that that's really something that can be all that well done. Historical volatility percentile will give sort of will give like likelihoods of timings of moves, but it's the levels that I go with, and the levels are I do feel they are pretty damn consistent. Not to sound arrogant or anything like that, but I do feel like they are pretty damn consistent, and realistically, this is all that I need to see right here. So again, to kind of wrap up the lower term time frames, 8950 resistance to the upside. If Bitcoin does reapproach it, I do think that it will end up breaking it, and we will see that move extended to 9150, 9200-ish region. So another $200, $300 move, very tradable, but that doesn't do anything except for the lower term time frames. It's the medium time frames that do change around here above 9200, and I would extend that target to about 9550, 9600, at which point this starts to look a lot more like a bear trap. By the same token, if Bitcoin does break below this blue box territory right here at about 8550, 8600, then that actually that not only affects the lower term timeframes for continuation down to this target right here, but also the higher term timeframes as well. So I would be, again, just going from blue box to blue box. Blue box is of peace and prosperity, and blue box is of death and destruction. And that's what I'd be looking at right now. And with a little bit of a bearish bias due to the correlation with traditional markets and all major moving averages, especially on the lower term timeframes, really starting to turn down quite aggressively here. But with the weekend coming up, do I think that this is all going to happen like today? No, I don't think so. In fact, I think that over the weekend we're probably going to see a little bit of a relief rally, and that unfortunately, if we do get a relief rally over the weekend, I'd be very skeptical to look at that as a potential reversal back up to the upside, especially on the medium and higher time frames. Unfortunately. Now, if Bitcoin kind of hangs around here, maybe even dips lower over the weekend, then I'd actually look at that as perhaps a little bit more on the positive side. I know it's a little bit backwards here, but typically the weekend is contra to the week's direction. And more importantly, if you do see a breakout on the weekend, that is a reversal from the week's direction. I cannot recall a single example since CMEs have launched where that has been sustained. We have seen breakouts in the same direction as the trend that happened over the weekend since CMEs have debuted in late 2017 that have gotten follow through. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about reversals that happen on the weekend, contrary to the week's direction or the week's trend essentially. And in this case right here, that would be to the downside. So if we did get a move to the upside, and that would be basically back above 9,200, I'd be very, 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 very skeptical of it, and I'd probably be looking for positions. Anyways, I'll leave it right there, and let's go on and check out the medium-term timeframes. Or sorry, actually, before we leave the lower-term timeframes, because they actually do have a lot of things going on here, let's look at momentum oscillators. 4-hour Stokes to head it up right now, so fair enough. We still do not have anything resembling bullish divergence. It will be worked on with any sort of a move lower. So it will be, it's in the process of being formed, but it's not present just yet. I'm sure that there's someone saying, Krown, there's bullish divergence here between this point and this point. Well, no, not really, because we don't even have a local low confirmed right now with momentum oscillators just struggling to even get out of the bearish control zone right now. I'm not so confident on that. On top of that, let's go check out our lower time frames, see how they're doing. We do see a little bit of, unfortunately, hidden bearish divergence on our 3-hour dildo time frame right here, although I would say that it's mostly played out between this point and this point. We can even take that one step up further, but I do think that that's kind of already been resolved here, as we've already swiped the lows once again, and 3-hour Stokes popping back up, going to be testing the edge of the bearish control zone. Let's see how they do around here. If there is going to be counter trend pressure, I would expect it to happen more or less right now. 2-hour Stokes headed down, hourly Stokes headed down as well. I'm curious how these time frames are doing. More or less the same. I don't like this price action right here. It's kind of like the rolling hills of redistribution on the lower term time frames, but how much attention do I want to give the lower term time frames when realistically the weekly and monthly are going to be closing today for CMEs? Not all that much. So let's go check out the medium term time frames for now and see how they're doing. And we do see that 12-hour again being forced below and held below with force that 200x benchmark average right here, alongside a pretty nasty cross between the 21 and the 55. Again, on the 12-hour, this one has had a pretty damn good degree of efficacy. Let's go back in time and just see the general results of it. We do see the last cross happening right around here, which actually had a better entry than the 4-hour golden cross, telling you to long right around 7350-ish region, and that led us up all the way to, well, 10,500. Time before that was crossing over here. Again, told you a little bit before the 4-hour death cross, and led you all the way down for the same move that we spoke about earlier. And same thing right around here. Told you to sell a little bit before the 4-hour death cross that we saw in this region right here. Actually, in fact, it told you to sell actually significantly higher at around 10,800, 10,900-ish region. So fair enough. And then got this move actually okay right here. Got this move okay right here as well. And then got the whole move from essentially 3550 all the way to 14,000 as well. And that's just for like the last year price action. So I do put quite a bit of weight on this. And there are fake outs here and there, of course. But just like the 4-hour death cross that was countered, to the 4-hour golden cross that was countered to the overall trend over here during a phase of reversal. Even those signals do have about 10 to 15% from the price point to actually play out. So I am a little bit not on the side of the Bulas here, but there certainly will be bounces, there certainly will be rallies, but again, as long as Bitcoin's below about 9150, 9200, I would be very skeptical of those rallies. Doesn't mean that it can't happen, but I want price action to prove itself first. Anyways, as these two guys cross each other, I do want to see if we're testing any sort of other we are testing the 200x benchmark average, so not so good, huh? So I guess I'll leave it at that. Anyways, we do see the 200 simple on the 12-hour coming in a little bit above 8,200, which would be the kind of like the lower echelon of this next targeted region to the downside. And more importantly, kind of to outline those targets to the downside a little bit more, we do see the 377 exponential moving average on the daily coming in right around 8,150 as well. Now the 377 hasn't gotten things, it gets phases very well. It doesn't really act as like a major area of basing all that well, or at least not in the way that you'd expect it to. But it's very, very similar to what we see in traditional markets, and a humongous moving average for traditional markets. And you actually see that SPY is actually very, very close to it right now. In fact, I would be looking for bounces off this region. Once again, I do think that we're very, very close to, at the very least, a medium-term bottom in traditional markets, assuming that SPY just doesn't absolutely close below like 293, we'll call it, or 290. That would be catastrophic. But for right now, I do think that these markets are kind of in sync with, kind of in sync. And looking at this right here, it does look a little bit more likely though that in the short term, perhaps Bitcoin is going to be mounting up a bounce over this weekend. 12-hour Stokes, which have called things more or less perfectly for the last 2 years, which is, I really hate to admit it, because it's like we do all of this more sophisticated technical analysis. I mean, even some of the analysis that we're doing is not that sophisticated, but just looking at the 12-hour Stokes with my settings, I've gotten things right more or less, just blindly fucking following them. And they, typically when they get down in this region right here, they don't like to stay down here for too long. In fact, going throughout the last couple of years of history, all of the tests within this region have been the reversals, or at least medium-term reversals. So we have one example of getting a little bit lower. That was August in 2018, and that was actually the low of this right around here. But I do want to match them up just a little bit, just to kind of show the last few attempts. The last one coming in 25th of January, which was this major low right here. The one coming in before that was right around here on this low at 69.50. The time before that was this low right here at about 65.50. The time before that was this. Actually, I think we have an example of where it did not do all that well. Hold on, let's go to this one right here. No, this one did okay as well. Okay, fair enough. Let's see. What about this one? No, this one did okay too. Well, fair enough. Yeah, so typically when 12-hour stocks get in that region, they don't like to stay down there for too long, and it does at the very least provide a nice medium time frame bouncy bounce. So, if we were to bounce back up here, I would say still about 91.50, 9200 is where I'd be keeping my eyes on, and I would change my disposition from bearish to bullish back above that region. And to be fully transparent here, I do think that this move overall is corrective. I don't think that Bitcoin is like entering into like a long-term downtrend, a long-term bear market. That discussion will be had if and only if we really start to break below about 7,500. That's when we can start to talk about targets not really into the 6,000s, but more realistically into the mid 5,000s. But again, that's well and far away. I know that there's a lot of people out there, talking about doom targets and everything like that. I think that's more so for like Twitter clout and YouTube clout and all that bullshit, and to get eyes on it and everything. And of course, I definitely abuse the clickbait as well. But if you've been here for long enough, you probably already know that the titles of these videos have absolutely nothing to do with the content. It's just having a little bit of fun, poking a little bit of fun as well. But yeah. So that's what I'm thinking right there. I do want to see if that matches up with any sort of major fibs. I know that obviously we are right around the 0.5 from this blue box territory that we spoke about days ago. The 618 coming in actually right around $8,000. So I do want to match this up with dildo bodies and see if this is going to change it a little bit more in favor of where I'm kind of looking for. And yes, indeed, we see the 0.5 coming in right around our prior little wick low, and we see the 618 coming in a little bit lower than where I'm still looking towards, but 81.50 to 8200 is kind of where I'd be keeping my eyes on, somewhere in this territory right here. So I'll put another blue box right there, outlining that area, and that's where I'd be looking for on the next leg down, if we get a next leg down. But more importantly, if we do see 12-hour Stokes pop back up, I do think you're going to see about 91.50 to 9200 tested. So what's likely to happen over this weekend? I think that we probably maybe test back down into this blue box territory right here around 8600, but I don't think that Bitcoin has the momentum to actually break it just yet. I think you're going to get some wicks into this region and then flip back around, test the upside. If 89.50 gets taken out to the upside on a lower term time frame, like a 2-hour or a 4-hour delta closure, I would look for extension to 91.50, 9200. That's where the battle can actually change. Above there, I would look for extension to 96, and then this starts to really look like a bear trap, but not until that 91.50 to 9200 level is taken out to the upside. Until that happens, it's still technically pressure on, and as a trader, I'd much rather be defensive than like trying to call a reversal before that. Anyways, let's go check out the daily. What do we have to be aware of on the daily? Daily Stokes still got some room here. We do see a nice trend line forming in, which would suggest a little bit of support coming in, a little bit lower though, unfortunately. So perhaps another day or two until we meet this trend line. But this trend line actually borne off some pretty important areas, most notably November of 2019, and then more recently, quite literally the low of this of this last cycle at about 6,500 from middle of December. So I'm talking about this low right here and this low right here, and we would essentially be meeting that same sort of trend line somewhere on another retest of the 0.5. I'd imagine at 8550, 8500ish region. So does Bitcoin swipe that area once again? Probably yes, but I don't think it has some momentum to break, and I would be looking for a bounce there. The question is, how high does the bounce get? 89.50, that's great, doesn't really do anything. Oh, and by the way, I did get rid of my my trade at 89.50 yesterday, as I said. What else on top of that? Yeah, 89.50 doesn't really do anything, but probably does test around there. If we get above there, extend it to 92, and then things could actually change. Okay, let's see. Are we working on anything else? Daily RSI, not looking all that healthy over here. Again, same sort of lows, kind of connected. Actually coming in all the way from middle of September down around here. We could make that I think that's a little bit too experimental. I don't really put all the much weight on it just yet. What else do we want to look at? Maybe 2-day and 3-day. 2-day Stokes still in free fall. That's okay though. 2-day RSI testing the edge of the bearish control zone. Usually this is going to provide a little bit of a counter trend pressure here. So do I think that we're getting ready for a bounce after a very short term another swipe of the lows? Probably yes. I do think so. The only way that I look for continuation is if like 85.50 is broken with force on at the very least like a 4-hour total time frame, preferably a little bit higher than that. But as always, that's higher time frame is going to be better, but requires a little bit more patience, unfortunately. Oh, by the way, I do want to follow up on the 2-day historical volatility percentile. A lot of people have been asking about this. People asking about Krown. Is this kind of the move that was expected from historical volatility percentile on the 2-day? Yeah, absolutely. Remember, we got extremely low, similar to what we've seen during all major precipitating all major like massive 20% move plus moves in the past that happened like relatively fast. And that's exactly what we've seen thus far. In fact, if we actually measure this one out, I believe that this move already from top to bottom has been about 20%. Yeah, almost there, about 18 and a quarter, it looks like. Close enough is close enough. Do we have another swipe down to like 81? I'd imagine that probably puts it somewhere around the what's it called? The 20% down even would put us down around that 8200-ish level, which is going to be the 2-day 200 simple 200 exponential moving average, and also the 618 Fibonacci tracement a little bit lower than that, but all within the same region. Let's see if it matches up with anything on the on the volume profile. And yes, we do have a nice thick AF node coming in right here, right around about 8050 to 8100. So perhaps I'm being a little bit aggressive. It might be a little bit more like 8050 to 8150 to 8050 rather than 8150 to 8250. So perhaps that is a little bit more accurate, and I should adjust. And you know what? I think that actually matches up with a few things a little bit better. So I would adjust that down to 8150 to 8050-ish region if Bitcoin gets that next leg down, and I'll be looking for big bad bounces there as well. What else do we want to talk about? Let's perhaps go to the 3-day for a second. Do we see anything of note on the 3-day? The 3-day is interesting. If the 3-day can, here's what's interesting about the 3-day as it stands. If the 3-day can, does it close today? Oh, fuck, it does not close today. We got a whole nother day. Ah, Jesus. Okay, so perhaps this could happen Saturday, but we'll come back to this one tomorrow. If the 3-day does confirm hidden bullish divergence here between this point and this point, I would be looking for that next move up to about 9,200 again. However, we still have to wait a little bit of time for that, so it's not, again, not all that helpful. Anyway, so we've beaten all these ranges to death. Let's actually go back down to our lower term timeframes, put on the drawing tools, and want to match this up with the expected moves chart. So keep in mind, 85.50 to the downside, that's no bueno. 89.50 to the upside, cool, but doesn't really do all that much. If we can take it out, then I extend targets to about 92. That's where things actually do change. So with that in mind, let's go put on the expected moves. Sorry, let me first take off all these moving averages. And there we go. Oh, sorry, this is only relevant to a 4-hour. Let's first start with the 12 hours. That has still been getting things better. We do see the bottom side of the first deviation coming in right around 8,600. So is it likely that we break down today? Well, it's about 16% likely that we break down today, on a 12-hour delta closing basis. And this should get around where the daily delta closes. So, are we going to close below that region today? The odds are not in favor of that. However, if we do, that 16% chance will likely lead us all the way down to our third standard deviation down here, which is right around that 8150-ish level. By the same token, if we do take out the top side, which is the top side of the first deviation, which is perfectly shown right around 8950, then I would look for extension all the way to the second standard deviation, which is 9150 right here. So absolutely beautiful that these line up with each other. I really like that. And also suggesting that to get above 9200 on a 12-hour closer, pretty unlikely, less than a 2.5% chance, actually less than probably probably more like less than 2% chance. Let's go over to the daily and see how this one's doing, because this technically should be getting things better anyways. We do see about the same thing. Bottom side of the first deviation coming in right around 85.50, pretty much the same thing as a 12 hour. So these guys are agreeing with each other, which usually increases the efficacy of this. So less than a 60% chance that we close below close below yesterday's low, which would incite that next leg of continuation. And to the upside, we do see about 9,000-ish region shown here. So I think that that's a little bit less relevant than the 89.50-ish region. And of course, the second standard deviation, actually, we'd probably have to mark these guys to the middles, and we actually can do that because the crazy mad scientist Mr. Bali has figured out how to do that. And I'll put in 1.5 standard deviation right here, and that should be 91.50 to the fucking T. Perfect. Fucking perfect. And that is how much of a percent chance? Okay, so that would be 43.3% chance, but just for that side. So what is it really? It's more like half that. So I think 9 to 10% chance that we actually break above there. So what's most likely to happen today? We probably play in a little bit of range. I think it's actually pretty much. I wouldn't be surprised if Bitcoin tests both sides of the range actually, but nothing changes until we break one of those ranges. That's the problem with it. And of course, this is never financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just sharing what I'm looking at right now, and you can use that however way that you desire. Okay, so we've beaten Bitcoin to death with we've beaten Bitcoin to death. Let's go check out some of the other top altcoins. And what do we have here? Mr. Buterol, more or less the same chart. Looks to me it's kind of ready. Well, is it ready for a bouncy bounce? I mean, the 4 hour is pretty wrecked. Buterol looks like he wants to have another leg lower, or at least test the lows, probably back down to 216 region. I do think most of the majors are getting ready to actually test the lows again, but I'm not necessarily convinced that they're ready to break the lows. Same thing with Litecoin, 4 hour death cross impending. I consider this rejection of the 377 and the 21, which is going to basically cross as well, and that's essentially saying that that cross is going to be efficacious. That's pretty much exactly what you're looking for. Shouldn't say that. I'm getting too bearish now. Looking at the weekly over here, not good. The weekly is very not good. The weekly is really not good. Next leg down, if Bitcoin reaches to the lower 8,000s, I'd be looking for like $52 on this, perhaps. Yeah, no, $53. Where would that same level be for Mr. Buterol? Probably somewhere back down around here at around 190. Oh my God, 195. Should I say it? Let's go see. Yeah, probably as a 21 in the 10 simple cross, the upside here. Not the best. The next week of price action. Anyways, go check out Mr. Ripple's nipples. He had a pretty damn good rally yesterday, but not good enough. Now, I do think that this one probably does, if this one closes below 24 cents this weekend, I do think you're going to see another relief rally back up to like 25 cents, but that's going to be a major sell. This thing's going to come back down to the low and probably make new lows. Sorry. It's not good, man. It's not good. Yeah, 4 hour not looking good. I mean, even the lower time frame's not looking good. Okay, cool. Let's go look at Link USD. A lot of people have been requesting this one, and for good reason. It's actually been acting quite differently than the rest of the market. I think this is the exchange to go with, Binance. Yes, we did. Okay, so yesterday on the Twitch stream, we did discuss the target back up to 410. We hit that. I do think it gets a little bit of extension here up to 4.25, but after that, I don't really have a strong opinion. If I had to say something, it does still look overall good, but will Bitcoin in the general market bring it down? In the past, it has had a history of going contra to the general market's direction. So I'd say if anything's going to have a chance to do it, this one would be it, as well as maybe Tezos, which we'll look at in a second here. But for right now, I do think it's going to make another swipe up higher here, and essentially I'd be saying more or less I can be comfortable here having a bullish bias as long as it remains above the 21 exponential moving average at about 385. Although again, with the rest of the market not looking all that healthy, I would be a little bit skeptical of this one. Let's go check out Tezos as well. But I do still think that it has a little bit more short-term upside here to be 100% direct. Tezos on HitBTC, I think this one has the longest running price action history. Same thing here as well. I can have a bullish bias as long as it's above 265 or 263 to 264 region. Kind of the same thing as Link, but Link is relatively stronger than this one. However, below 260, no excuses for something like this. Below 260, I'd be looking for a move probably back down to like 230, maybe beyond. Looking at the weekly here, weekly still okay. It's still okay. It's still okay, but not great. And again, the rest of the market can very easily bring this one back, this one down. This one does not have a history of doing something different, like Link does. Link does stand out in that way. Let's go look at Link versus Satoshi's. Very, very nice. We did hit the prior high as we spoke about yesterday, and I would say that if it can close on new highs above 46,000 Satoshis, we'll call it, then I would look for the full on target at 50,000 to be officially tested. Well, it's actually almost like 51,000 to be fair. So I do still think that that's relevant. And Link versus Satoshi's looking, again, like the best chart in cryptocurrency land. I mean, this weekly right here is setting up for more continuation. So 50,000 would probably be, probably just a short-term pullback there. And this one just continues to get stronger and stronger. This is really, really good. I don't know what the fuck this thing is. I don't know what the fuck this thing does. I don't know the goddamn single coin of it, I guess. But if I was going to own an altcoin, this one would have been it. And I've been singing the fucking praises of Link for the last like year and a half, 2 years, ever since April of 2018. It's been like actually doing something very, very interesting. So the strong continue to get stronger. Let's go check out gold really, really quick. Gold coming back down, looks like 1634 weekly, not looking like it wants strong close all that strongly. So I do think that we're kind of setting up for a medium term pullback, probably back down to like 1590-ish region over the next month or so. I don't think it's all that bad, and I do think that relatively the higher time frames are going to be closing relatively strong for the monthly. Monthly's looking pretty damn good here still, assuming that it doesn't close at 1590. So we will be getting that information later today confirmed. And if it does close above 1590 or like 1600 especially, I do think that coming into March it will come back down and test 1590-ish region. But I would be looking for potentially or very, very likely a nice local low being put in there. Still, this is one of the better charts. And if you are looking for a hedge on what's going on in the world right now, this is one of the only things that's really acting like it. And then maybe Link, kind of funny, man. But this one, this is the behavior that you would actually expect from something that is going to be acting as a hedge. Now, if things truly get dire, if the situation really starts to suck with the whole coronavirus and whatnot, I don't think that this is going to survive either. I mean, we do see what happened in the last financial crisis in 2008. This thing dropped like a sack of fucking shit all the way down 34%. So it's not necessarily the biggest safe haven, but when we need to pretend like there's a safe haven, this one will act like it. And right now, when things aren't so dire, it's going to still act like that. So what I'll kind of leave off here with is the monthly on Bitcoin CME. Bitcoin CME, if we do, we're closing the monthly tonight. If it closes anywhere below essentially the 10 simple, which might actually, we can see it quite well on CMEs here, which is about 9180-ish region. If we go over to spot price action, it's going to be 8930, 8950. So spot actually is going to have a pretty damn good chance to close above. CMEs, maybe not. We'll see. But if it does close below, I would be looking for further downside coming into March, maybe even April, and probably another test of the 21 on the monthly as well. So I'll leave it with that and wrap up the lower time frames really, really quickly here. I do think that Bitcoin's likely to kind of swipe back down and test these lows. I don't have opinion on whether it breaks the lows. If I had to call it right now, I do not think it breaks the lows today. I do think that it would probably put in another wick right here and then set up for a weekend bounce, probably back up at the very least to 8950. If 8950 gets taken out to the upside, I would look for a formal test of 9150 to 9200. That's where the things can actually change back in the favor of the bulls there. If we can get like at the very least a 4-hour deal to close above there, preferably a 12-hour or above, then I would extend targets to 9600, and this really starts to look like a this really starts to look like a bear trap. By the same token, if we do break this blue box territory down here at about 8600, 8550-ish region, especially on a higher time frame, then I would look for extension down to about 8150 in like a $50 range, we'll call it, and that should be close enough, and should take us throughout the next 24 hours until we next speak. Or well, actually, I'll be on Twitch later tonight, so I'll be there. So I'll be there anyways. Other than that, I think I've said everything that I want to say. Perhaps I'll leave you with one last thing before I say my goodbyes. But would you long this chart?